Good evening. I'm Erin Boucher, Chairperson of the Shrewsbury School Committee. Welcome to our meeting for Wednesday, January 21st. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast live on Cellcode channels 29 and 329 and streamed live on Shrewsbury Media Connection's website. Thank you to Liz Poplowski and Shrewsbury Media Connection for their assistance with our broadcast. Tonight's meeting will be rebroadcast on SMC's website and their YouTube channel between now and our next scheduled meeting. The first item on our agenda this evening is public participation. No one has contacted the chair about speaking at public participation this evening. In the future, if anyone would like to address the committee, they should contact the chairperson in advance of our next scheduled meeting. The next item on the agenda is chairperson and members' reports. Colleagues, anything to share this week? Ms. Fritz?
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. I'm currently in my 18th year serving on the committee. It goes by extremely fast. I can't believe it's been 18 years. And I'm really honored that the community has reelected me many times to this position. I don't think there's anything more important than public education. But as I look to what I'm getting older and what I'm going to do in the next phase of my life, I have decided not to run for reelection this year to the school committee. I'm extremely honored to have served with all of you, with all of our my previous colleagues, with Dr. Sawyer. But I think it's time for a fresh perspective, a new set of eyes to come onto the board. But between now and May, we have a lot of work to do. The budget, hiring a new superintendent. So between now and then, I'll keep working my hardest for this community. But I'm at the point where it's time for somebody new to come on and help the rest of you. And I really look forward to seeing what the next school committee will do. So thank you.
Thank you.
That makes me sad, but and thank you for all the years that you've served the community, because it is a privilege to do something like this, and you've truly made a difference. So thank you for serving. I don't know how to follow up with that, but in going along with what Sandy said, I have decided to rerun for my position, or this position, on the school committee. So we have a lot to do between now and in May, but I'm looking forward to working and hopefully coming back to serve some more time.
Well, thank you both. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Dr. Sawyer, next item on the agenda is superintendent's report.
Thank you. I know there'll be thanks coming later in the spring, but that's a long time to serve on a school committee, and the level of service you provided to the community has been extraordinary. And our work together goes back 29 years, I believe.
That's
and
right.
When Floral Street School opened, and you were a parent there and served on the school council, deeply appreciative for the public service you provided, and we'll look forward to honoring that in the springtime.
Thank you.
For superintendent's report this evening, I want to share 4 recent highlights and a message regarding a very concerning situation. The 4 highlights, I had the pleasure of viewing the Oak Select Orchestra's performance last week, which was outstanding. It was really hard to believe that students that young are making music as sophisticated and well played as their pieces were. Unfortunately, I arrived a bit too late to see the Oak Select Jazz Band perform that evening. I was told they were also excellent. And a different evening I couldn't attend, the Oak Full Select Band and Select Choir performed, and certainly wish all of these outstanding performance groups well in their upcoming MICA district competition. I did arrive later at that particular concert because I had been at the high school at the SHS Capstone Symposium. The Honors Capstone Independent Research class is a class that students can take their junior spring semester and their senior fall semester, where they do an independent project. I was incredibly impressed by both the quality and the breadth of their research, the skillful communication of what they learned as they presented, in sort of a science fair type format approach with a whole variety of different kinds of topics. They choose their topic, they're very passionate about their project, and it's something that it's a really terrific program that our high school provides. And I know that this experience will serve them well for their own independent learning and project management beyond their high school years. So congratulations to all those students. Then on Saturday, I had the privilege of attending a portion of the Project 351 launch day. I was able to go to the afternoon, evening portion at the JFK Library in Boston, where an 8th grade ambassador from each of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts gathered after those students performed community service around the Boston area that day. For those who don't know, Project 351 is really an extraordinary organization who they choose an 8th grade ambassador from each community each year. Those ambassadors and the alumni who continue to do work in their high school years and even beyond They make a really positive, meaningful difference in their communities across the Commonwealth. I was able to connect with our current 8th grade ambassador, Gianna Patel, and 2 former Shrewsbury ambassadors who were there volunteering, Prisha Nair and Emma Keeley. I look forward to learning what Gianna chooses to do as her project. Each ambassador does a project in their own school community during the springtime at Oak Middle School this coming spring. So again, congratulations to her and to all of our ambassadors. And then finally, yesterday, Oak Middle School Principal Hallie Burak, Middle School Science Curriculum Coordinator Pam Poitras, and Oak English Language Arts teacher Anna LaValle represented Oak at the State House in Boston, where Oak Middle School received the honor of being named one of only 55 schools across the Commonwealth as a school of recognition. That was for Oak students' academic performance last school year as measured by our state's accountability system. So I want to extend my congratulations to the entire faculty and staff at Oak for this achievement. I also want to thank Representative Hannah Kane, who joined the Oak delegation at the recognition ceremony yesterday. So we're certainly proud of that work that the Oak Middle School community did this past year. Finally, this evening, I also need to share a message regarding a deeply disturbing situation involving a Shrewsbury Public Schools staff member. As I communicated to family, staff, and the community last Thursday afternoon, we learned that morning that Aiden York Wallach, a paraeducator at Sherwood Middle School, had been arrested and was charged with possession of and intent to distribute child pornography. We understand the serious concerns that this news of this arrest raises for all of us, and I want you to know that we have been working in coordination with the Shrewsbury Police and our legal counsel to ensure that we follow proper procedures for our school district's investigation and to properly provide what information we can share. I do want to let you know that in addition to our coordination with the police department, in order to meet our obligation to investigate this situation, the district has engaged a third-party investigator to conduct a thorough review of Mr. York Wallach's employment with the Shrewsbury Public Schools. Attorney Jeffrey Sankey, who's an experienced investigator, who's also practiced as a special education attorney representing families, has been retained. He'll be given full and unfettered access to all the relevant materials and individuals. This will include parent and staff interviews, personnel files, district email communications, and any other relevant records necessary to fully understand the facts. Attorney Sankey has the independence and the authority to follow the evidence wherever it may lead. We undertake this review first with deep concern about the allegations made against Mr. York Wallach. Second, with the understanding from the police that the charges made are not connected to Shrewsbury students. And at the same time, with recognition that the nature of the charges are extremely worrisome to all of us, especially the parents of students with disabilities with whom this employee worked, which is why it's paramount that we take action to address concerns related to our students' safety and well-being. Our hope is that this third-party review conducted by Attorney Sankey reassures our community that we are treating this situation with the utmost seriousness and that we're facing it firmly and openly and with partnership with families. Last evening, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services Meg Belcito and I sent this information to the families of students with whom this employee worked directly. Tomorrow, this information will be sent to all families and all staff along with details including contact information. To conclude, I'm grateful for the trust and continued partnership of our families, staff, and community as we undertake this important review in light of this deeply troubling situation. And that is Superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. The next item on our agenda is an update on the superintendent search. As the community knows, Ms. Fritz and I serve on the screening committee for the superintendent search. We wanted to provide an update to the community on the latest of what's going on with the search. In December, the school committee engaged a consultant, New England School Development Council, or NESDEC, as its search consultant after an RFP process. The school committee also formed a superintendent search committee. The school committee developed a job description for the superintendent position, and the position was posted by NESDEC in December and was advertised nationally. During the first 2 weeks in January, the school committee conducted a community needs assessment. The consultant interviewed each school committee member. The school committee then sent out a survey to all families and staff and to community members who requested a survey. NESDEC also conducted a focus group of high school students. Participants provided their responses to 2 questions. What are the qualities, characteristics, skills, knowledge, and experiences you desire in a new superintendent of schools? And what do you see as the pressing tasks and challenges ahead for him or her in year one? We would like to thank the families, staff, and community members who participated in the survey and the students who participated in the high school focus group. We sincerely appreciate your input and engagement. The school committee used the feedback collected as part of this assessment to develop a superintendent candidate profile, which is a document that outlines the desired qualities and experience that the next superintendent will possess. The first meeting of the screening committee took place last evening. The screening committee will narrow down the candidate pool and decide which applicants to interview and then go on to conduct initial interviews. The superintendent candidate profile that's been developed will be used by the screening committee to guide their selection and interview process. After the initial interviews are conducted, the screening committee will deliberate and determine which applicants to recommend to the full school committee as finalists. The screening process is confidential until the finalist phase. Finalists for the superintendent position will be made available to meet with community members, and there will be an opportunity for the community to provide feedback on the candidates. We will continue to keep the community updated on this process. Ms. Fritz, anything to add?
No, thank you. I just want to thank you, Ms. Boucher. You're chair of the committee, but you're also chair of the search committee, and there's been a lot of moving targets and logistics that you've been coordinating, making sure that we stay on timeline. And I also want to thank the community for providing that valuable feedback. We've read through every single one of those questions, all of the feedback, and we had a good sample size, I think, to give us some good direction as we move forward. And like you said, it's going to be an extremely transparent process with ability for the community to provide their feedback. So, but thank you for everything you've been doing.
Thank you. Any comments or? Okay. All right, the next time-scheduled appointment on our agenda this evening is acceptance of a gift. Per school committee policy 911, gifts of $5,000 or more must be formally accepted by the school committee. Kevin and Daleen Love have made a generous donation of $5,000 to the RISE program and a donation of $2,500 to Parker Road Preschool. Dr. Sawyer, do you have anything to add on this item?
I want to express our deep appreciation to Mr. and Mrs. Love, Kevin and Daleen, for these very generous donations. They stopped by our office when they provided us with that news, and we are really pleased that particularly their son Ryan, who participated, and he's presented at the school committee before, who was one of our first pioneer students for the RISE program itself. We really appreciate their support, and we'll make sure that these funds are used in ways that continue to support those programs and serve the students who are in them well. We had offered them to be here this evening, but they chose to not be, but certainly want to recognize their generosity and certainly recommend that you accept the $7,500 generous donation from Kevin and Daleen Love.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the Love family for their very generous donation on behalf of all of the school committee. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we take a vote? Okay. I need a motion that the committee vote to accept a donation of $7,500 consisting of $5,000 to RISE, Reaching Independence Through Supported Employment Program, and $2,500 to Parker Road Preschool from Kevin and Daleen Love.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor shall signify by saying aye. Aye. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is an update on the world language, from the World Language Department. Mr. Almeida will present an update on the World Language Department that includes information on new curriculum and instruction standards, seal of biliteracy data for the class of 2025, and multilingual career readiness.
And Ms. Boucher, just before that, Mr. Almeida begins, appreciate, I know that when I sent out the list of agenda items that intended to make the State of the District report this evening, but that's going to be postponed until the next meeting on February 11th, and I appreciate that consideration, and looking forward to Mr. Almeida's presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Good evening. Nice to see you all. So I start with this slide strategically because, keeping with backward design, these three things that you see on the screen really have been the guiding principles of the work that began my first year in this position. And I'm really happy to be here tonight to give you an update on what that work has been. It couldn't be done without the support of the administrators, with you in approving new programs to new curriculum programs to our department, and the hard work of our 25 teachers in the world language department. So it takes a village, and I appreciate everybody's support. So these are the big wins. We've had 6 years of really focusing on instruction and refining instruction to use data to get those outcomes that we all desire. Our participation as part of the grants that we've been lucky to receive from DESE, those grants we've worked with DESE and participated in the World Language Leadership Network, and this year's focus is developing the Commonwealth's guidance for outcomes for world language programs. And I'm happy to tell you that the beginning stages, I was really pleased to see that what we've been doing here in Shrewsbury for the past couple of years already aligns with what the Commonwealth is proposing, so that's great. We've really had a commitment from our staff to shift their practices and to adapt a fluid curriculum that changes with the needs of students, using data from previous years to refine and to tweak the curriculum and practices for the following years. And like I've alluded to, the data-informed instruction, part of our participation in DESE's grant is, of course, the Seal of Biliteracy, and that the opportunity to participate in that awards us with the data that we use to make decisions and to refine instruction in the classroom. So talking about the refinement, some of the work that we began in 2020 was when I presented what proficiency-based practice was to the department. It really involved looking at what we were doing in 2020 and looking at what needs to be done, and part of that was really reducing the curriculum, because at the time we were teaching in Spanish. My experience was we taught 8 units, right? And they weren't really connected. They were just 8 units because they were part of a textbook. Mm-hmm. And the proficiency-based approach is really about the depth of student knowledge. And so we slowed down the units by creating our own units, but in essence that because we're focusing on student use of the target language, that in essence doubled the amount of correcting for the teachers. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of, yes, we cut back our units, but at the same time, because we adapted our instruction to the proficiency-based model that requires a lot more feedback than what we were giving our students. So it was really thoughtful in that feedback that students were using helps the students and the staff reach those outcomes. The testing data that when we give the exams for the Seal of Biliteracy, I present to the teachers. I present student exemplars so teachers can see what our students are doing holistically, and that helps teachers inform their practice for the following year. So we really get data that's by the instructional modes in the target language. So our students always do really well in the interpretive mode in reading. And second language learners tend to struggle in the productive skills rather than the receptive skills. So we really look at that data, and now with our focus on instructional practices and the instructional prioritization initiative, I'm taking that opportunity to really research what are some key pedagogy that we can practice in our classroom in order to really hone in on those productive skills of language. So when we have IPI Tuesdays, I'm full of enthusiasm about them. Of course, I only taught 1 class where everybody else is just coming off of 5 classes. And our last IPI strategy, I gave the teachers a choice of 2 strategies to implement. But always, I think this year we focused more on department-specific practices rather than universal practices, and that's been really well received by the staff. And I'd like to thank them, if they're watching, for being really strategic on when they implement those strategies and keep using them and tweaking them and sharing the feedback of how they've refined those strategies and made them their own. Those are like my happy moments when I hear, oh, this is my version of the strategy that you gave me, and I really like that. The seal of biliteracy. This is a really happy story. If you look when we started in 2022, so a couple of things I wanted to clarify. DESE, our SIMS reporting the SIMS reporting only includes the number of students who earn the seal of biliteracy. However, we live in a fabulous multilingual community, and many students opt to test in various languages. So when we give awards themselves, we give them per language and not per student. So my report shares the information per language that was awarded. So it is common for one student to earn the seal in 2 languages. So class of 2025, stellar class, and hence the figures, almost 100 languages students awards were given. And then part of my work in writing this report was running the SIMS reporting, and thankfully DESE has come up with the seal of biliteracy dashboard for district leaders to use to see how their district is doing in comparison to comparable districts. As you can see, the percentage of Shrewsbury High School graduates with the seal is roughly 19%, which is well above the state average of 7%. So that's fantastic. In terms of equity and excellence, looking at the SIMS data, I'm happy to report that we have the highest percent of graduates with the seal of biliteracy among comparable districts in terms of student size. Strong outcomes for multilingual learners, like I just talked about. We have students who tested in various languages. Our English as a first language, not English students performed really well on the exam. But we have to lean into where we can grow. And that is expanding access and increasing opportunities for males, for our Black and African American students and students with disabilities. The class of 2025, another success story that I'm curious, the SIMS report doesn't show, but we did have 2 students on IEPs that received the seal of biliteracy. And it's, it's just one of those success stories that kind of debunks the theory that, highly intellectual students are students who take world languages, and students with no, special needs are going to struggle in world languages, and that's just simply not the case. What we've done here in the community is we've created kind of niche opportunities for all students to find their path to be successful in a language class. So when I specifically tracked those 2 students because they were heritage students, and so when they earned the seal of biliteracy, I personally went to them and congratulated them, and I did share this data with Ms. DeLeon, our Director of Special Education at the high school. So I'm not sure, Ms. Clowder, if the SIMS data where it says SWD, if that is supposed to pick up, this is my inexperience speaking, is that supposed to pick up the students on IEPs, or is
Yes.
that physical? Okay, so a little investigation on my end to figure out why that didn't show up, but it is factual. Again, our numbers in comparison to the state, as you can see, where I reported nearly 100, what was reported on the SIMS was 80 students from the class of 2025, and here are our different subgroups. And with the support of everybody at the high school, particularly Mr. Bazidlo, who we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, Ms. Clowder as well. One of the proposals on the program of study is to hone in on our students, our multilingual students, and use the asset-based approach and saying that you can make a career out of being multilingual. The idea of medical interpreting came from my own children. My daughter is a senior and she's currently in medical interpreting at her high school. She is not, her first language is English, even though both of her parents are in world language education, but she earned the seal of biliteracy. She's in medical interpreting, and that was really an inspiration for me. And when Miss Aries came on board and was talking, the pathways and our focus on not having access to Assabet, I kind of put the dots together, and I thought this would be a great opportunity, and creating this avenue for students who are multilingual. So the proposal, Mr. Bazidlo and I worked together on this with Ms. Aries, and what the qualifications for this is open to, we're proposing this to all students, heritage and world language students. The difference is a world language student is a second language learner, where a heritage student already has some proficiency in a mode of that language. But the requirements are that they're performing at the actual intermediate high in the target language in Portuguese or Spanish. We wanted to open it up to Spanish, to offer it to our world language students and to our heritage Spanish students who may be interested. When Lorena was here last week, I know she's a heritage Spanish student, the couple of school committee meetings ago, and this would be the ideal program for her. She's interested in going to nursing, and so this would give her the opportunity over the summer to get her feet wet and already work with the terminology and have that experience working at a hospital. I believe Ms. Monopoly or Mr. Bazillo alluded to the fact that students need to be 18 because they're working. They're going to be working in a hospital. The course, the way it's designed, is 3 quarters will be in person at Shrewsbury High School through a member of the department teaching the students, followed by a quarter 4 internship where the student will actually take the certification course and have the internship at the hospital. So that's something exciting that it was another team effort to propose, and an idea that the seed was planted a couple of years ago, and we're really excited to bring to fruition. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Before he takes questions, you've heard him say the word team several times. One of the reasons I wanted to join Ken at the table was to just talk about the things that he's describing in his report are the direct result of his hard work and his leadership, his steadfast advocacy for world language as an avenue for opportunity for all kids, and not just kids who, as you referenced, were traditionally successful in world language. But the tremendous growth of the program is the result of Ken's personally connecting with students, making sure that they were aware of the opportunity, spending a lot of time on communication, educating the rest of us about what possibilities existed and what would be needed in terms of assessments of kids who expressed interest in languages that we don't have any expertise on, and what kind of tests and funds would be needed to do that. And he's humble enough that he wouldn't mention all of that back work to make it possible. Makes it sound like we just got together in a room. But it's a result of Ken's advocacy for several years and his real thoughtfulness about how to grow the program over time. So I didn't want that not to go unsaid.
And I just want to add on that this really starts at the middle level as well. Ms. Burak has been a great person to work with, and she really gets the importance of starting a world language. And under her leadership, we have students in the ELC who are taking a world language class. And our students, our teachers who are working with those students really, they really model differentiated instruction for those students. So she's been an ally in terms of opening the doors to world languages for those students, and we need to keep doing that work.
Thank you for everything. I love the fact that you're really progressive in looking at how to do things differently, how to do things better, and how to benefit all students, which I think is a wonderful example of what we do in Shrewsbury. And just, we're looking at certain groups to keep making sure we're focusing, because we're not seeing those numbers, but I would encourage all students, because hopefully everybody will take advantage of this. And I know if we're traveling abroad, there's so many students who they're multilingual, trilingual, and I speak English, that's it. And had how many years of French? I could read a little, but I could never speak it. And I just think about what you just said with middle school, and hoping as we move forward and looking at the budget and try to get to have more intensive language younger, because I think when you're in foreign countries, their students they're all learning elementary school. And it's just a different way, and that's why they're all speaking all these different languages and can go places and do things that we can't because we're not multilingual. So thank you so much for that. I love that medical interpretation when we heard about that. And not only is it a great opportunity, but it's, again, progressive, and it ties into our goals, CTE. So thank you very much for that, and all the data-driven piece that you're bringing in. So really impressive, and thank you.
My pleasure, thank you.
Mr. Winsky?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Love your passion for world languages. It really shows in your presentation, and some great wins that you called out. But I think the one that really stood out to me the most is around that seal of biliteracy, seeing that 77% jump in the seals that were awarded, 99 in total, which is great. Probably see over 100 next year, at this pace. So that's awesome. And I think it's also important for the public to know that presents a great value to these students, not just later in life in their career, but also if they were to pursue higher education within the UMass, that translates to, was it 12 credits to students receiving the honor, which is, I think, was it 2,300 or so for a 3-credit course. So that's outstanding. Just really great that this is available to our students. I know you really work hard to get it here. And I do love the tie-ins with the career and technical education and your partnership with Karen Aries. I really appreciated that, and especially hearing from the students, a few weeks ago on that. So thank you so much for all the support.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you for the report. I'm glad that you mentioned the middle school, because I have a middle schooler who's in the world languages. And the passion that she has when she's talking about her day, and she's talking about specifically about her Spanish class. But I cart children around from activity to activity, and there's other kids that are in the same grade, and they're always talking about language, whether it's Spanish or French, and their teachers, but how they're learning is so different than the way that we learned how to do it. And it seems more interesting, to be honest, and it's sticking with them. So I'm glad that we're starting at the middle level, and that enthusiasm is continuing up to the high school. I'm also really excited about the medical interpreting class. I work in the medical field, and the interpreters are a daily part of our lives, between in-person phone calls that we have to have. They've been very helpful to us in interpreting letters and results. So you can absolutely make a career out of this, whether you just want to interpret, but it also getting a foot into the door of a hospital where maybe a student can see themselves working there. And again, maybe as a medical interpreter, but it's also really important for us to have physicians and nurses and PAs who also speak multiple languages. So this is a great step in. I know you said your daughter was involved in that.
Yes.
Are there how many other local schools are doing programs like this? Do you happen to know?
So I know from experience, because of my kids' Hudson
Okay.
Public Schools, we reached out to Lowell, Brockton. I believe there's a program on Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, one of the islands. So this is something that's talked about, that's been happening.
Relatively new.
Relatively new,
Yeah.
yes, relatively new. But I want to say maybe someplace in Worcester, one of the Worcester high schools as well. again, it's been 2 years in the process, so my memory's a little fuzzy here, but yeah, it's definitely something innovative that's happening. It kind of hits a personal note for me as a child, because I was a medical interpreter for my grandparents.
Yeah.
So, and I remember you spoke about this when Mr. Bazillo presented the program of studies, that, you know, it's so, a medical interpreter is a skill and needs that vocabulary. And when I look back at my grandmother's podiatrist visits, I didn't have that vocabulary at 12, you know?
Yeah.
I was trying my best,
Yeah.
but, so it's kind of an equity piece too. I don't think any child should be placed in that position.
Right.
Right.
But,
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, it is an equity piece, and we have a lot of people that will come in and say, well, I can interpret for my mom, or I can, which is great, and yes, but the gist is there, but there's also so much legal issues with it too, that you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So having certified medical interpreters is huge, and again, this is a great opportunity, and I truly hope that a lot of students take advantage of this, because I think that this, again, falls into where we want to go with our strategic plan with CTE, and this is a really good way for those who are like, oh, I'm not into biomedical engineering, or some of the pathways, they're not really my thing. This is a different offshoot of it. So thank you for including something like this, because I think this is great and very innovative.
Thank you.
That's really good.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your leadership. I think your slides tells itself. You celebrated the success, and I also pointed out where the gaps are and how to improve. So I like this. So the best 5 slides or 6 slides. So you did it very well. I like the information there. So that my only concern, or not concern, but recommendation is you already mentioned it there, to reach out to the student bodies that they're not taking advantage of this bilingual, right? Within the table, there are a lot of other student groups that might take advantage of it, and the ROI, I think, as mentioned early on, $1 million savings with the credits that were received as part of the bilingual credits at UMass. UMass is a selling point. That's the return on investment, pretty out there, right? So it's very impressive. Please keep doing what you're doing, and keep continuing improving it as we go. Thank you.
For people watching, it might make sense to share how you got that number.
Sure. So I am a numbers guy. My accounting students would vouch for me. The number was UMass, and it's not just UMass, it's former Massachusetts state colleges, which are now state universities. Some private schools as well may not be giving the private schools may not be giving the 12 undergrad credits. They may be waiving like humanities or something like that. But that figure that I put in the report, I calculated based off of a UMass Amherst 3 undergrad credit course, multiplied by 12, which is the amount of credits that they, actually by 4, because it's 12 credits in total. If it's a 3-credit course, then it'd be 4, multiplied by the number of awards we came out. That's what the projected savings would be. So.
If all of those students went to a UMass.
A UMass system, right. But I was contacted most recently by a business school because the universities do contact me for either the award or the test results to certify them before giving out the credit. And to go back to your point, for the more outreach, tomorrow we're having an advisory committee meeting for world languages for the first time, and we've had a lot of parents sign up to join, lots of students to kind of figure out those questions. Why aren't more students taking advantage of this? So I look forward to investigating and hopefully bringing you some answers.
Would be great. Thank you.
I also wanted to thank you for your report. I have 2 students that one received her seal a couple years ago, and then one that's in the process of working towards that. I can speak to the value of the program and how just the switch in the instruction in terms of the focus on speaking is just incredible to me. I took Spanish all through high school, and really came away with not being able to speak much at all. And just the way that they can already communicate, and also the pronunciation, and just, it's just really incredible how much that has kind of evolved in the, and I think also to my colleague's point that you're starting this alignment of the curriculum at the middle level and bringing it forward. I think what a leg up, right, for the students that are starting in 7th and 8th grade and getting into the pipeline for the Seal of Biliteracy, because it is an arduous test, right? It's, what is it, 3 components? Or it's the language, it's also the written?
So for the test itself, they have to qualify in English via the grade 10 ELA MCAS. So it's important that families know that, because kind of when the requirement, the competency requirement of MCAS was voted down, it's still the metric that students need to attain for the Seal of Biliteracy, because it's biliteracy, so that English component is via the grade 10 ELA MCAS grade. And then the world language is through an assessment, world language assessment. So our Latin students are only assessed on interpretive reading, but our world language students are assessed on all the modes. So speaking, writing, listening, and reading. So 4 tests, yeah. And you have to score the actual intermediate 5, intermediate high on all 4 tests in order to.
So it's rigorous.
Sometimes the
yeah.
hardest conversation is to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you missed it by." You got it in all except in 1. But luckily, we've developed a system where students first take it their junior year. Well, they start their sophomore year through final exams, but then they complete the full exam their junior year, and kind of as a carrot for them to continue with world language, we say, you can retake all the sections that you missed. And that really is really rare that the students miss more than 1 section your senior year if you keep with us. So,
That's great, yeah. Thank you very much.
my pleasure.
Dr. Sawyer?
Thank you. In the comments from the committee members, you heard terms like valuable skills, opportunities, passion, and certainly want to underscore what Ms. Clouder said about Mr. Almeida's leadership of the department and the work that's happened over the last many years for all the reasons that you stated. And I also want to note that, and I know this from both my lens as a superintendent, but also as a parent, former parent of Shrewsbury graduates, that he's really an outstanding role model as a teacher. He's an outstanding practitioner. And so he knows not only how to build a program, but what that excellence in the classroom looks like. And some of the things you're talking about, I've benefited, our family's benefited, where our older daughter, who had Mr. Almeida, decided to study abroad in Spain and has some working Spanish as a result, and that's helping her in her career as a teacher in terms of communicating with students and families. And then also my another daughter is one of her majors is Spanish, and will utilize that in some fashion going forward. But they picked up that passion for the language thanks to the faculty and staff in the middle schools and high school, and that included Senor Almeida. So deeply appreciative. Really appreciated the report, all the opportunities students are getting across the board, all kids having access in different ways and having the chance to excel and get these opportunities through different coursework, the new opportunity through medical interpretation, but certainly the Seal of Biliteracy program has been a real boon to our students, and something I'm really very, very pleased that we brought on board. And my understanding is that we've yet another grant, which we'll ask the school committee to accept probably at their next meeting, to continue that work and to support it. And that's something that also that Mr. Almeida has done, is seek funding so that we can implement this programming, because things don't come free. And we're appreciative that that's another way that it's helped advance the work. So again, very, very grateful, and thank you for all your efforts and your leadership.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is the Shrewsbury High School Program of Studies proposed changes. A vote. At our last meeting on January 7th, we heard a presentation with regard to proposed changes to the programs of studies. At that time, Mr. Bidzidlo provided us with a memo outlining the proposed changes, and it was provided for our review. The complete program of studies was posted online, and we are now here for a vote this evening. We did not receive any feedback from the community with regard to the program of study. Does anyone have any comments or questions before we take a vote this evening?
No.
Nope.
I need a motion that the school committee vote to approve the Shrewsbury High School 2026-2027 Program of Studies as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a full-day preschool proposal vote. At our last meeting on January 7th, Director of Preschool, Ms. Bridget Nichols, presented a proposed preschool tuition increase of 3% and an expansion plan for full-day preschool opportunities for the 26-27 school year for consideration by the school committee. And again, we did not receive any comments or feedback from the community with regard to either the tuition increase or the expansion plan. Anyone have any comments or further questions? Ms. Sharif-Kapoor, before we take a vote?
I just want to ask one question. Well, I'm in support of the preschool, but I think I mentioned it, Dr. Sawyer, but could we, after presumably that we pass this, after registration for preschool finishes, could we, as a committee, just get what the preferences for families were in terms of how many wanted full day, how many wanted the 5-day, just so we can kind of see what the breakdown is now that we have more sessions available for full day? If we could get that.
Yeah, we certainly can provide that information as the registration goes forward, and we can update the committee once we have more of a sense of that, for sure.
Great.
Absolutely.
Any other further questions or comments? I need a motion that the committee vote to approve the preschool tuition increase of 3% and the addition of 2 sections of full-day preschool.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor shall signify by saying aye. Aye. And the motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the school district calendar for 2026-2027. A draft school calendar was presented at our last meeting on January 7th with a summary of changes provided by Dr. Sawyer. The draft calendar was posted on the district's website for public comment. The Shrewsbury Education Association and the Shrewsbury Paraprofessional Association officers were consulted. Dr. Sawyer's recommendation for the calendar is unchanged from the one that was presented on January 7th. So again, we did not receive any feedback or commentary on the school year calendar for next year. Anyone have any comments or questions before we take a vote? Okay. I need a motion that the school committee vote to approve the proposed 2026-2027 school year calendar.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a vote on the no homework calendar for the 2026-2027 school year. At the January 7th, 2026 meeting, Dr. Sawyer presented a recommended calendar of no homework dates for the 2026-2027 school year for approval by the school committee. Once approved, the dates and expectations for no homework periods will be communicated to students, families, and educators periodically throughout the year. The draft calendar was posted for public review and comment, and again, we did not receive any comments or questions with regard to the proposed no homework calendar. Anyone have any questions or comments before we take a vote? I need a motion that the committee vote to approve the no homework calendar for the 2026-2027 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is a report with regard to fees. Mr. Girardi will join us this evening to present information regarding the fees related to busing, athletics, and music lessons. A report with the history of fees, current rates, and impact of increases or decreases in the rate was enclosed with our packets for this evening. And this provides comparisons to other districts' rates as well. Dr. Sawyer will consider feedback from the school committee and will then make recommendations for potential adjustments for consideration and a vote at future school committee meeting as part of the fiscal year 2027 budget process. So, good evening, Mr. Girardi. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'll start with just kind of a general outline of our public school fees. There are 2 types that we'll talk about. The first are fees that provide partial funding but do not cover the entire cost of the services. And the 2 there are a bus transportation fee and our athletic fee. And then we have a fee that covers the entire cost of the service, and those are our music lesson fees. And, we would also, in the past, we've included the preschool fees and extended day. We felt that those kind of are standalone conversations, so we no longer include them in this conversation. So you've worked on the preschool fee, and later in the season, we'll spend some time with the extended day fee. So last fiscal year, we worked with district management group to conduct a full evaluation of our financial systems with the final report that they provided to us in May of 2025. Now, this report provided findings from a 10-year review of our budget history, and it followed up with a 10-year budget projection with specific key areas of risks, with corresponding recommendations to address them through responsible and proactive budget planning and program review. And the reason why I share that with you tonight is that their budgetary risk number 1 around strategic priorities and resource optimization spoke to our budget initiating a strategy to reduce the district's over-reliance on non-local and variable funds. And this includes fees. So that's something that was presented very clearly by them through their report, something that was addressed last year by a school committee, and we'll speak more to that this evening. But that's just something I wanted to put on the radar for the community as we discuss fees going through the budget season. I'll start with the bus transportation fee. This is a 10-year of our bus fees, where in FY26, the school committee reduced the bus transportation fee from $320 in fiscal year 2025 to $300 in fiscal year 2026. So with that, we had a budgeted revenue for this year of $726,000. And similarly, just to put on the radar that the family cap, which was at $960, was reduced to $900 for the family cap. In comparison with some surrounding communities, this is a mix of both the communities that are part of the Assabet region and some communities that have been identified as similar profile districts by the Department of Education. Shrewsbury is, if you look at the category for the FY26 fee, which is a slightly gray highlight, that's where we currently stand with FY26 fees. Shrewsbury coming in at $300, per paying rider, $900 family cap with a $50 late fee. You can see that there are a number of communities at the bottom who do not charge a fee. A handful of them are because they're regional districts. In regional districts, they're not allowed to charge a fee. And then some other districts have developed, a budget plan where they do not charge fees for students to ride their public school buses. So 2 pieces here for our bus transportation budgetary impact. One is when we reduced the fees to $300, we reset our projection for revenue at $726,600. So our projected 2,422 paying riders is how we derived that number to current date. And when we look at this, we can actually pull actuals because we have the actual number of students who have paid to this point. This will be a little bit different than athletic fees because we don't have additional seasons that we're trying to project. These are actual numbers. And to date, we have 2,437 paying bus riders. So we're slightly over our projection by 15 students, which has given us a slightly higher dollar amount that we're pulling in for revenue for our bus transportation. So in context, our bus transportation is about $4 million. So again, this is a piece where this is a fee that does not cover the entire cost of the service. This supplements the cost of the service, and it usually comes in about 20%. Our transportation budget is increasing 6% year over year, which is, it's slightly more than what our appropriated budget from the town is, and we're aware of that. It's actually a pretty fair contract if you look across the state, but it does outpace our, our appropriated budget. So these are things that we take into account when we're thinking about transportation costs and the bus fees. Another piece to this, this chart here is it just gives you a understanding of if we were to charge more or less for our fees, what the dollar impact would be for FY26 through our projection, just to give you a sense of revenue and how that revenue would support bus transportation. So our athletic fees here, I have to make an adjustment to what you received in your packet. I was going through this tonight and I realized that the total budgeted revenue for the high school was $370,000. And that number was if we were still charging the $325 fee. So the slide here shows the $300 fee, and highlighted is what we projected for $300 fees, and that comes to $341,000 for the high school, and you will see that number in a later chart. So the total between high school and Oak Middle is $366,000 of budgeted revenue. Again, in FY26, the school committee reduced the high school athletic fee from $325 with a $975 family cap to $300 and a $900 family cap. The Oak Middle School fee, athletic fee, was not adjusted, and we'll speak more and show more comparables to that in a few slides. It's important to note, and I didn't share with transportation, that families who qualify for free and reduced lunches. In transportation, the fee is waived. In athletics, it's a reduced fee for $50 per sport at the high school and $15 per sport at the middle school, with the comparable family caps. So for high school athletics, it shows where Shrewsbury is within the mid-watch league. Again, we came down from $325 to $300. So that's the comparables there with other schools in our league, and you can see the districts with no athletic fees again down at the bottom. The per sport fee for middle school is in the green highlighted column, and that shows Shrewsbury at $100, and it shows comparable districts. And this row was not sorted from top to bottom, so you can go in and take a look at where the $100 Shrewsbury fee lands in comparison to some other districts. So again, this slide here with our athletic fees, we're making estimates based on participation. Given the $300 fee, with about 15% of students receiving the reduced fee to a $50 fee. So as we're making these projections, we're estimating the amount of participation that we're looking at, with 15% of students receiving the reduced fee. So again, our budgeted revenue for FY26 was $341,400. Currently, we're coming in under that for the high school athletics. However, with some recent projections, I'm feeling more confident that we'll come closer to the budgeted revenue, especially with spring sports still ahead of us, which we don't have exact numbers for yet. And then our middle school budget at $100 per athletic fee, we're trending about 6 students higher, so we're trending about $600 more than what we budgeted for FY26. So our music lessons are offered on a semester basis with a package of 14 lessons per semester, and the fee structure is set at $37 per half hour. They can take their lessons in half-hour, 45-minute, or 60-minute increments. These fees support 100% of the instructor cost, and parents sign up on a semester basis and agree to pay for the total of the 14-lesson package. And again, music fee rates, as you can see, to some comparable districts. If we're looking at session lengths, at the 30-minute length, Shrewsbury coming in at $37. If you look down to the mean and the median being at $38, we're kind of right in the middle of the pack. And in speaking, with our music department, they feel that, this is doing a nice job of covering the needs of the department right now. And if there are, as we move forward to making a recommendation, we'll discuss if and how these fees cover the full program. Because again, this is a fully funded program based on the fees versus the transportation and the athletics. So some next steps, we'll seek some public feedback prior to the school committee fee rate vote. Review recommendations from the district management group's financial review through the budget process. And school committee will vote on the fee rates, which is currently scheduled for the February 25th, 2026 meeting. As we look at timelines, what we would like to have our fees set at some point in March as we are preparing to launch our bus transportation for FY27. Typically, that's the first school business day of April. We benefit from having some time setting the prices and getting the website up and running for families to apply for the bus with what the current fee is going to be for that year. So with that, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? Ms. Ritchie?
Thank you for the information, and I think for me, there's a couple of issues. The DMG report where we talk about risk mitigation and where we have an over-reliance on grants, fees, and philanthropy. And I think over time, especially around bus and athletic fees, we became overly dependent because we had to. As the budget was suffering, we were unable to not increase fees without reducing or eliminating in other areas of the budget. So it became very dependent, and those fees kept going up. And I'm glad we're not at the highest. Anyway, we used to be the highest, so we've got a little cushion. But I think, looking at, the history of how they came to be, and then over-reliance, because if these numbers drop, the appropriated budget will have to find some place, or we'll have reductions, eliminations. So I think that's always really important to look at. But then I also look at, as we move forward to another potential override, and asking families, as well as the entire community, to look at increasing taxes. I think having a gradual step down in fees is my personal view. I think we have to make sure that we're not overly burdening the same people that we will be asking to also provide additional taxes if an override should be put before the community and pass. Chris, one question though around the estimates in the budget around the athletic at the high school in Oak. How confident are you that those variances will be probably made up with the spring sports?
Sure, so I received some projections this morning from Mr. Costa in preparation for tonight, just to get some final numbers. The projections were much healthier than the numbers that I was running a week and a half ago when I was preparing this. So as the fall sports tighten up, and as we start to see when we generate revenue, it comes through our school pay system. That always tends to lag a little bit as far as the payments being received within the town coffers.
Okay.
So that's sometimes tricky to put a pinpoint on a given date as to how much revenue we've created. So I'm looking more at some participation projections to give me a more solid overall projection for the year. And right now, they're running right about the same amounts that if we had the same number of spring athletes, we'd come in right at that number.
Okay, great, thank you. So, we're gonna get more information, but I definitely think it's something we always should think about in reducing burdens on families for things that we should not families should not be having to pay for, especially busing.
Mr. Wensky?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think last year we found a path to reduce fees for transportation and for sports. But I think it's an important point around how we got here with fees and the dependency that we've historically had on fees. And I don't know, you know when we implemented fees? Like, does it go back
It was before I was on the
before you
committee,
were on? Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to.
so it's been a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but I mean, I know I've been on the committee a little over 10 years, almost 11 years. And prior to the last override in 2021, it was always, you know, there was some type of budget gap, right? It wasn't always that way for the first like 2 or 3 years after that first override in 2014, but you know, you start to chip away at things on the budget as we got closer and closer to 2020, and then it became always a conversation around budget season to address fees and how we mitigate that budget gap that we would see, you know, historically, until we achieved the predictability and stability of the 2021 override, where we knew every single budget cycle, the agreement between the select board and the school committee was a minimum of 4.25%, you know, within that, you know, 4-year, you know, cycle that we agreed to. So last year we were able to find a path to reduce fees. I would like to see us do that again where we can. But also, we need to see what the needs of the district are too, to see if there is an opportunity to do that.
Right.
So it's always a tricky situation. We certainly don't like fees. I mean, even though we're not the top, like in bus transportation, we're still 5th out of 14, right?
Right.
So we're still up there.
We're still up there.
You know, so it's a lot to talk through and consider, but definitely look forward to the feedback that we get from the public and the, you know, conversation we continue to have on this topic.
Mr. Wensky made me think of another point I wanted to make, as, because we are really early in the budget cycle, we're just
Yeah.
starting to look at it, but I think one of the other parts from DMG and also that we talk about is looking for efficiencies. So we don't know what the budget dollars will be, where things are needed, but we may be able to do that even just through efficiency, not just additional or reducing somewhere. So I think there's a lot to think about in ways that we might be able to do it going forward.
Yeah.
Mr. Bellapudi.
Thank you very much for the historic perspective. 10 years is good way to look at it, how it's been spread out. My one question is, so we've been at 275 in 2017, and then we increased, and then we sort of decreased, and then fees. So I'm looking at these numbers as a fee, but how does it impact the ridership? So going from 275 to 300, our ridership stayed same or it dropped? And then if it's at 220 and 25 and 300, were we able to pick up more riders in the buses? And then my other question to that is, it would be interesting, not necessarily you don't need to answer it today, but it would be very helpful to look at that impact, because maybe there's a way to lower the fee and increase the ridership. So we still will be, if there is occupancy, like we also need to know the occupancy of each route, and then where there is an opportunity, and maybe some may be full buses, some may be half or whatever it is, right? So if there is an opportunity, then we can still decrease the fee, but increase the ridership. Then we will be still at the dollar figure. Same with the athletics fee too. So how many of the families are taking advantage of that reduced fee, so that if we increase the participation, can we lower the fee but increase the participation and still have no or zero minimal effect on the budget? That's fine. You don't need to answer today, but if
Sure.
that would be helpful if we can get that data.
I'm guessing Mr. Jari is looking for some ridership numbers.
Yeah, I have
I'm
a
guessing.
spreadsheet
And while-
here.
And while he's doing that, I would say that as far as athletics is going to be less sensitive to demand or pricing, because many athletic teams the number of slots are going to be set by how big the team can be. The sports that sometimes fluctuate from year to year are more the track sports, because they can carry more students. And, but I don't think we've seen this year any appreciable difference in the number of athletes, based on what my understanding is right now. But
Right.
Again, it's going to be pretty limited to certain sports where you might be able to add more interested students if they're interested in playing. ridership has been, in terms of what that looks like, and you have some numbers there, Mr. Girardi.
I do.
You can share.
So we have a 10-year history of kind of tracking ridership over months of registration. Going back to FY18, FY19, when there were some changes there. Slight reduction in numbers, maybe by about 40 riders. But, that's probably less than 1%. We're talking about, 4,500 riders at the time, and, going down by 40, students, that's probably about 1%.
Right.
So could that be statistically significant? It's tough to tell.
Right.
And similarly, when we decreased the ridership from last year, the fee from 320, look at buses here, $320 to $300. We're slightly fewer numbers, slightly fewer riders this year than we had last year. It could mean a number of different things. It could be our enrollments at elementaries are a little bit lower than they have been in the past, and typically you get more riders at the elementary level that are paying the fee. That's or that are actually riding. We had a little bit of a dip during COVID. We picked up. We've gotten back to, FY25 was our largest year in a number of years. So we're just kind of moderating a little bit. There doesn't look to be any significant data that's telling us that the fee is impacting the choice of our families. But to your point, economy of scale is something that we would also want to keep an eye on, because if you went full free transportation, which some districts are doing, they're seeing that the number of buses that they need to provide the transportation for significantly increases, and that increases the cost on the district. So there's some balance, or at least some attention we would need to pay towards how we anticipate the number of riders and what that would cost the district, depending on fee versus the appropriated budget.
But that's helpful. Yeah, at least that says that it's not the fee; it's mostly maybe a personal choice. So that gives some perspective. Thanks for that information.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the report. It's always helpful every year when you can kind of lay out for us exactly where we stand in relation to our, peer communities and other districts. I've been very pleased that we've been able to move in the direction on moving away from the reliance on the fees, and even they've been modest decreases, but at least we've been moving in the right direction. I know we're very early in the budget cycle this year, so I'm not quite sure what we're going to be able to do around this, but, I think this is something that we all kind of are on the same page on, and we'll definitely take a very hard look at this as the numbers mature a little bit and we have a little bit more information about where we're going to kind of see, the different needs and the community and the, in the district for the coming budget cycle. But thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it. Dr. Sawyer?
Appreciate the feedback and the conversation. We'll take that into account as we're developing the initial budget recommendation, and then ultimately, within time, so we can set fees for the next year, ask the school committee to give us guidance. I'll make a recommendation at some point around what, based on what I've heard from the committee and what we think is within the context of the budget and the district's needs. And ultimately, the committee will decide what it is that you'd like to do in terms of setting those rates for next year, and then we'll adjust accordingly based on what the impact of that is. So, but this is a helpful first step. I appreciate Mr. Girardi's report and the data, and we'll look forward to future conversations.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes. The minutes from the school committee meeting held on January 7th, 2026 were provided. Did anyone have any corrections or?
No.
Okay. The committee will then therefore accept the minutes as distributed. And we do need to go into executive session this evening, so I'm going to need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Purpose 7, Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, 22F and G, for the purpose of reviewing, approving, and/or releasing executive session minutes. B, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect of the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Purpose 3, the Shrewsbury Education Association, Units A and/or B, the Shrewsbury Paraprofessional Association, and/or the Cafeteria Workers Association. C, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, non-union clerical and support staff and/or administrators. Purpose 2. D, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, federal and Massachusetts student record laws. Purpose 7. And E, for the purpose of General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Open meeting law complaint. Purpose 1, where deliberation in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and return to open session only for the purpose of adjourning for the evening. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
This requires a roll call vote. Ms. Fritz?
Aye.
Mr. Wensky?
Aye.
Ms. Sharifa
Aye.
Mr. Veligapudi?
Aye.
Ms. Boucher? Aye. Thank you and good evening.